Welcome to the Marshall Pruett podcast, presented to you by Cooper Tires and the Justice Brothers. We have a special for you here, a Sebring special. We're going back 35 years, fittingly so, because this is centered around a Porsche 935. The amazing Stefan Johansson driving for the de Narvaez Enterprises team. A Porsche 935 at the very end of its life at the Sebring 12 Hours in 1984, going up against the brand new GTP-style machines with Hans Heyer and Mauricio de Narvaez as his teammates. That might sound normal. This is the most unnormal, non-normal, anti-normal story possible. Stefan is convinced that this adventure he went on was indeed the inspiration for the movie Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, starring Steve Martin and John Candy. And I'm not going to give much away here because you just need to listen. Stefan, master storyteller, everything he's done with us in the podcast from his days in Formula One, IndyCar, you name it, he's the best. Love him so much. And so this is 10, 15 minutes or so that I carved out from a podcast we recorded last year, actually, sitting here in Sebring in 2018. Was just sitting on this, waiting to roll it out, knowing that this crazy tale of Stefan Johansson trying to get to Sebring, having never been here before. There's just too much in here. And again, I don't want to give any of it away. An aging Porsche 935, just pure madness. This is genuinely one of my favorite stories that I've heard on our podcast. Now we've just celebrated 500 episodes so far. So I'm going to let us roll just right into it here. Once again, thank you to Cooper Tires. Thank you to the Justice Brothers for making this all possible. And thanks to Stefan Johansson for living a crazy life and being willing to share those tales with us. Off we go with my favorite suite. So Steph, we're here at Sebring. And knowing that outside of your decade in Formula One, kart, team ownership, Indy cars, all kinds of stuff, your time in sports cars, man, you drove a lot of fun things, crazy things. What was your first Sebring like? Every Johansson tale has some, like, oh my God, aspect to it.
This has got a really good one, actually. It was with Joest, Ronald Joest, because I've been driving for him the year before in 83 with the 956 in Europe. And this deal came together very, very late with Mauricio de Narvaez, who was the third driver in the car, came up with the money, I guess. And they actually pulled out this old Moby Dick Porsche, the 93, what's it called? The
935. Yep.
Out of the museum, literally, the Porsche Museum. It'd been in there for years, and I mean, it still had like, duct tape numbers on the side of 47, whatever. It was like absolutely last minute, just fill it up with fuel and send it more or less, But the funny part of the story is that it was me, Hans Heyer, and Mauricio. And Hans and I, we were leaving Frankfurt to fly out on, I'm guessing it would have been Monday, probably, to arrive here Monday night in Sebring. Anyway, it was like that movie, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles on steroids, because we didn't arrive.
Those aren't two pillows.
We arrived on Saturday morning before the race.
You're kidding.
No, it was like unbelievable. It was engines broken, snow delays, diversions, trains literally from somewhere up in upstate New York down to some other airport. I mean, it was crazy. I mean, to make a very long story short, but I mean, this went on for like 4 days to try to get there. It was crazy. And we arrived on Saturday morning by car. We flew in, so we had to drive like 3 hours. We arrived here like at 8 in the morning.
Exhausted from the trip just to get here.
Destroyed, because we hadn't slept for like 4 days. I mean, literally just, sleeping on airport benches and stuff, And I'd never seen the track, never seen the car, no idea where, of anything. We arrived at the track. I don't think we even, as far as I'm aware, I'm not even sure we signed in. With, given de Narvaez qualified the car like in I don't know,
a millionth place,
50th place or something. Yeah, because there was like 80 cars or something starting a race then. And so he starts the race. And kind of does his stint, sort of more or less the same. Then Hans jumps in and starts,
moving forward.
Gets up to speed pretty quick, so he starts picking up some places. And then it's my turn, and I said I'd never driven the car. I had no idea of the track.
Left,
exactly.
right.
Just see the left.
Yeah, okay.
After the
we'll figure it out after turn one.
Sebring back then was like with a huge airfield.
Yeah.
I mean, to just get your bearings right, where to turn even was difficult, And then this car had this locked rear diff.
Oh, jeez.
So if you lift completely, if you're turning right, and you're going at pretty hefty speed as you did then, and then you lift off completely, the thing would just turn left because the diff would just steer it,
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you and I knew nothing about it. I mean, literally, it was like half an hour to get our shit together, and helmets and everything, and then just, all right, you're on, So, I mean, I was being passed by anything you could see out there, Yeah. So then Hans sat me down afterwards, and I was like, okay, this is how you got to drive this car, and then, so the next stint I get in, then starting to get the hang of the thing, and then at the end of that stint, I was actually lapping the same time as the leaders. Then I started to get a feel for it and understanding, and I could see what the others was doing in front of me and braking points and so on. So then we were up to speed. And then, so Hans and I was doing pretty much the same lap times. But we were still way the hell down, like in 20th something, And then, but anyway, so like from about, I would say about 5 o'clock, maybe 6 o'clock in the evening, something like that, I got in the car again. And, sometimes you just get in this sort of zone where it's like walking on the pavement, you're just on the limit. And we were flying at this point, and we were little by little just ticking one after the other. And I think we passed, I think it was Stuck in the Coca-Cola car for the lead with like an hour to go.
And this is just for those who aren't aware, in 84 here, you're in an old 935 against brand new GTPs, right? I mean, so I'm not saying the full field. There's still a lot of 935s, but a 935 wasn't necessarily the hot ticket. I mean, there were some newer, faster machines, and so this wasn't easy.
No, but I mean, it was a fantastic racing. I mean, it's amazing. Sometimes you just drive like it's not. Just get in that zone, and it's just beautiful, and it was amazing. And then we ended up winning the race.
So
I think I drove, I think, at least 6 out of 12 hours in the end. So, yeah.
So how do you do this, Steph? And I'm asking a dumb question, but you go through hell just to get there. You've turned 0 laps in the car. What happens after turn 1 on your first lap? You're not sure. Am I going left, right, straight? Well, I don't know. To come in that exhausted and cold, and in the race, in this kind of old dog of a car that's being dusted off against some newer, there are even still some new 935s that were in the field then, and the GTP cars. There's just a part of you that's like, how the hell do you overcome all of the things that should be conspiring against you? Figure it all out in the race and beat everybody. That's crazy.
Yeah, but that's what it's all about. I mean, those are the great days, when you get in that state of mind, it's like you can't describe it, but I guess that's what we live for, It's such an amazing feeling when you're just so in tune with everything that it's like walking on the pavement, It's no effort. It's just you're totally on top of everything. It's just a phenomenal feeling.
And those things don't happen that often in an elite driver's career. I mean, you can win championships. There are many things that can happen that are amazing in your career, but those days like this, those don't happen too many times in a career, right?
No. I mean, I wish they could. I think that's where Ayrton Senna's strength was, that he could dial into that state of mind, when he was like in a different zone, But I've had it happen several times, but I wish I could just tune in like that. But because it is just extraordinary, amazing feeling, It really is.
Tell me a little bit about that 935, because other than the frickin' locker rear end, of which you'd naturally want on a airport road course, what did it do that wasn't insane? I mean, it was from brakes to power. Obviously, you're able to wring the crap out of it, but what did it do that seemed to work for you at least?
Well, it was just, I don't know. I mean, it was a bit, the car was a beast, basically, But, all cars were kind of beasts back then, Tubular frame, flexing like crazy, So you kind of had to anticipate. But you adjust the driving accordingly, You sort of, when you get into it, you apply the power, and then you kind of wait for the chassis to unspool itself, And then it's like you let a rubber band loose, and the thing just bluff, and then you got to have enough room to correct, and not only correct, but to pick the next gear, because when the turbo lit up, and the whole thing took off, because it had a lot of horsepower, those things.
Did you have a boost knob in the car?
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah. You and a boost knob, that's a marriage made in heaven.
Yeah, so, but it was, it was a very difficult car to drive.
And Sebring today is still a place where there are a lot of sections of the track that are damn dark, and that's an improvement over what it was back then. What was it like, again, being new to the place and having to race in the dark as well? That seems like that would be almost cruel.
But the dark it's strange, because when you've been doing so many laps around there, you have your marker points. You don't really, frankly, you don't need to see that much, because you know where you're going anyway, because it's by that time it's all automatic, it's just all, your brain's just working on all the different inputs you get, and you know where to turn, you know where everything is, so you just have marker points, your braking points, the turning points and this and that, because that's what you do all the time on the track anyway. You always pick out, so you try to, everything is just kind of systematic all the way, it doesn't just happen like this. Everything is very systematic when you drive,
So if I'm thinking of fun reunions or I can't believe we did that, have you and Hans and de Narvaez ever had a chance just to reminisce about what you guys accomplished?
Yeah, we meet every night. And it's funny, because Mauricio turned up in Santa Monica, I think last year, maybe 2 years ago now. And he came to my studio, my art studio.
Your amazing studio.
Yeah, and we hung out there for the day, and went and had lunch and everything, and it was kind of cool. Yeah.
So you win Sebring your first time out. There's part of me that says, man, did that just kind of spoil it for you? Like, it's never going to be better than this afterwards? What was
it was
like
weird, because at that point, I'd just been... It's going back to my Formula One career. So I drove for Spirit Honda in '83. Then I lost that drive. Well, Spirit, lost the engine with Honda. So I was out of a drive again. So this thing in Sebring was never meant to happen, because I was supposed to be in Brazil for the first Formula One race of the season, which was the same weekend. And all I could feel was just kind of, not sadness, but I was just so disappointed I wasn't in Brazil. So it didn't even register at the time what I'd accomplished there, So I was all about Formula One then, like what sports car crap, what's that? I want to be a Formula One driver, And
there's some healthy anger and frustration we hear, though.
Maybe that's what it was too. I don't know, but I remember, because the other thing. So when I finished the race, got out of Parc Fermé, went to pack up, my bags and everything, and then went to the podium, and they wouldn't let me on the podium because they didn't know who I was, because my name wasn't on the. Because we'd never signed in, So we're like, and there's the other two waving to the crowd, and and I'm like, come on, man, can I at least go and spray some champagne there, for Christ's sake?
Oh, that's brutal.
Yeah.
And that was Stefan Johansson, 1984 at Sebring. There'll never be another story like it. The endurance race, trying to get to the endurance race, never turning a lap, rocking up on race day, learning the circuit during his first stint in the car. I mean, not even a lap in a rental car. He didn't get to walk it, didn't get to run it. I mean, just go. Hey, I think turn one goes left. What happens after that? We'll find out. It is insane. And then to the very end of not being allowed in victory lane. He did finally get in, but just madness. I wish I was there to have seen it in person. But thanks again to Steph for taking the time to share this with us. I hope you enjoy it. And we've got more stories with Steph. We've got a whole My Life and Racing Career podcast, part 2 or 3, I think, sitting in the can with him. Got some other stories, some other wild tales that Steph has uncorked for us. And we're going to capture more because he is an endless well of amusement there. All right, I'm Marshall Pruett. This is a Marshall Pruett podcast presented to you by Cooper Tires and the Justice Brothers. Thank you for listening.